Swamiji and Honorable and citizens of Houston City. I'm greatly honored by this opportunity to address you. I'm of course a politician. I may have the name Swami, but I'm not the real Swami. And I've been given a topic which is religious in nature. Of course, I've always believed that religion should be in politics, but politics should not be in religion. And it's very difficult to keep the two apart. And the only thing we can make sure is that we don't bring politics into religion. But there has to be religion in politics. If you don't have values in the conduct of political affairs. I would assume that, I would assume there would be no challenge if I said that both Mahabharata and Ramayana are really political scriptures. They describe political principles. In fact, the last sermon of, if I may call it, of Bhishmacharya to Arjuna is full of gold nuggets of wisdom on how to conduct political affairs. There are so many questions that Arjuna asks him. He is giving very, very interesting reply. I remember one of them, Arjuna said, "When shall I make allies with enemies? And when I should not?" So Bhishma said that I'll tell you a story. That cat and mouse we know are enemies, deadly enemies. At least the cat will eat up the mice. At least this much the rat knows. And one day, a cat was harassing a rat a lot, so the rat had to stay in a hole. And the cat, to harass him, would sit on the top of the tree or prowl around so that the rat would not be able to come out. One day, in night, just before morning, early morning, a hunter came and he put a net to catch some of these wild animals, like deer and so on. And he put this net down, which if any animal steps on it, it will immediately suspend that person in the air. There will be a rope system by which this would be done. So he left it and went. And when the sun came out, the rat heard the cat screeching. It came out to look, and he saw that the cat had by mistake stepped on the net, and the net was suspended from the branch. So then what happened is the rat began dancing around, that at last I got freedom, and it was stirred a little too far, and in came a snake, and the rat didn't have enough time to run back to the hole, so it was totally petrified. So the cat saw the plight of this rat, and he said, "Why don't you jump into this net and with your teeth bite off the rope, and then I will protect you from this snake. So I will, shriek so much that the snake will run away." So the rat then jumped into the net and said, "Okay, drive the snake away." So the cat shrieked and shrieked and shrieked, so the snake in fear ran away. And then the cat said, "Now you open maybe cut through the net." So the rat was doing it very slowly. So the cat got angry and said, "Come on, do it faster. You can easily do it faster. The farmer is going to come very soon, and we have to do it before that." But he kept biting very slowly till the farmer came to pick up his net. And when he was very close to the net, then the rat cut the net very fast. And the cat also jumped out and climbed onto the tree, and the rat also went back to the hole. The farmer came, picked up his net and went away. And then the rat came to peek its head out. And the cat asked him, "Why did you do this?" So he said, "Well, I know that you would like to eat me. So if I had cut the net very early, then you would have eaten me up. You have no morals on this question. But I felt that if I cut just before the farmer comes, you will be more worried about the farmer coming and catching you and giving you a good beating. And therefore you will be more interested in saving your life than taking my life. And that's why I waited." So therefore Bhishma said, have an alliance where you know when to get out of it. Then you can have an alliance with an enemy. And otherwise you should not ever have an alliance, because the first thing the enemy would do is to swallow you. So like this, there are so many such political advice given in our scriptures that I would say that it's very difficult to keep religion out of politics if you want to do politics, if you want to really conduct politics in a moral way. But you certainly should keep politics out of religion. So, however, I'll take great care to minimize the political content of my speech. And certainly at question time you're there to control which questions will be allowed or not. I today want to speak about an important aspect of our daily life, and that's called the mindset. And mindset is actually how we respond, the outlook we have to respond to events that happen to us. There are many events which unfold in your life. Some of them give you pain, some of them give you pleasure, some of them give you happiness, some of them give you grief, some of them give you success, and sometimes failure. So you have to know how to respond, and that is called the mindset. And there, Gita, in various slokas which I'll take you through, explains very clearly what should be the mindset. And that's what I would like to begin with. First and foremost, I would like to read out sloka number 47, which is in chapter 2. And this is on page 38. And I've taken this from Ganapati Santana Swamy's Gita. You can take it from any other.
Mike has to be closed.
Huh?
I can't hear Mike.
Yeah, okay. I'm taking it from Ganapati Santana Swamyji's Bhagavad Gita. And what Krishna says to Arjuna in sloka number 47 is this: your right is to work only and never to its fruit. Many would have been told this a number of times. Let not the fruits of action be your motive, nor should you be attached to inaction. That is, you have in life only freedom of action. You can never tell when the fruit of that action will come to you. There is, to use a mathematical term, there is no linear relationship between your effort and the getting of your fruit. In life you must be found that there are often when you work very hard for something, you get nothing. And sometimes you work very little and you get a lot. And that's the principle, essentially what Lord Krishna says. You'd be surprised that Business Week, about 2 years ago, had an article saying that corporate executives in America are being taught Bhagavad Gita in its content to reduce stress. It turned out that stress arises because you have this ego attachment that your efforts must produce results. And you are constantly stressed whether you are putting enough effort or you are capable. And you therefore, you make a heroic effort to succeed. Approach to action is to act, to work towards a goal, but at the same time to know that the outcome is not in your control. The outcome is, as Krishna says, is his account book of karmas, and it will be put together, and on that it will be decided. You can pray to God for success, and then God will reschedule your good karmas to get from. It's like getting Provident Fund, getting your Provident Fund a little early. It's there to get for you to get at the end of your active life and when on retirement. But you can get a little in advance as a loan. So therefore, or as an earlier installment. The same way, Gita makes it very clear that ultimately all results are going to depend on your karmas. And those karmas are inclusive of your Purva Janma karma. And this karma philosophy is the only one which explains life. I don't know of any other religion which has an explanation why sometimes you get nothing after a heroic working for it, and sometimes it all suddenly comes without any work. Or why a completely incompetent person compared to you gets recognition for something where you are denied that recognition. So this dilemma we face in life, and we say life is unfair. But what actually, and that leads to stress. And stress has led to a very high cardiac problem in the American executives. So they are now saying, yes, you have to work for company goals, but your freedom is in the choice of actions. What comes out, what the results come, that of course is totally dependent on me. It's what Krishna makes it very clear. So that's the first thing I should say. So he says, Gita then raises the question, how should this action be performed? And here again you have a shloka number 41 in chapter 2, and that is on page of this book is 31, I think. And what it says is this, shloka number 41, and it says, in practice of this yoga, O Arjuna, there is but a single one-pointed determination. Multifarious and innumerable are the decisions of the infirm in mind. In other words, if you're going to do something, block out everything else. Just focus on this. And that's the only way you will be able to reach your goal. So in our country, in our system, in India, people have got so many thoughts in their mind. Halfway through they will think of another route. That's not the way to do it. In fact, when Drona was asking Arjuna, when Arjuna pulled his bow to kill a bird, he said, "What do you see?" He said, "I see the iris of the eye of the bird and nothing else." That is called single-pointedness. Gita says you must have single-pointedness. When I was doing this 2G spectrum matter in Supreme Court, people came in, this corruption also you should take up, that corruption also you should take up. I followed the Gita, I said I'll take up 2G and nothing else. Other things, other people can take it up. This business of doing a little bit of everything and having all these ideas float in your mind is usually the cause of why you have failure. And that failure is because you are infirm in mind. You are infirm in mind because you have multivarious thoughts. When you decide to do an important project, then the mindset should be that nothing else matters. And there you focus on it. So this is the second thing. First is you have freedom of action. But that freedom of action should be exercised with total concentration on achieving that objective. Nothing else should matter. Of course, when you say nothing else matters, it doesn't mean that means don't matter. Of course, means matter. But your whole dedication should be to achieving it. And that's why it says that again in Shloka 15, in chapter 2, let me read that also out, which defines how fruit is given. And in that, yes. So he says, Krishna says, "O great among men, that wise man who remains the same in pain and pleasure, and whom these emotions do not afflict, is indeed fit for immortality." There's another shloka which says, "Sukadukhaye samaipiktava." It gives you the series of opposites and say that these series of opposites ought to, you should be not affected by either. You should not be delirious in victory. You should not be depressed in defeat. They should all be moderated. It should be both should be treated as two sides of the same coin. So, A, your action, you are free. B, you should be single-pointed. And 3, the results of those actions are not in your control. But once the results come, you should neither be exhilarated because you won, nor should you be depressed that you lost. And this requires a great deal of mind control and meditation and so on. But ultimately, by a process slowly of moderating, you will be able to achieve this objective. Now, there is now a lot of American books which are being written, recycling all this without giving credit to Gita. I think that Deepak Chopra has done a $1 billion business on this. Much of what he says is really already there, but he writes it in American English, and it's fine. I mean, it's entrepreneurship, and he's made a success of it. But there are other reports which also come out, and some of them are now classic texts in school, in psychology courses. In Stanford University, there is a professor by name Carol Dweck, and she has classified mindsets into two types. The first mindset she calls as the fixed mindset, which is where you say, I know my limits, I fail because I'm a failure. This is the kind of a pessimistic outlook that one has. Then she says there's a growth mindset, and this growth mindset is, I really have no idea the extent of my potential. But if I have failed, it is because I have to retool myself and retry to realize my potential. And retrying is absolutely essential. As you know that Islam failed to come to India because repeated invasions were defeated. But finally, it was Muhammad Ghori who came how many times, I don't know, some say 16 times, some say 10 times. 18 times something. But in the end he won. And that's how Islam was established. Of course, the problem was also with our culture in the sense that we had rules of warfare which you will not find a parallel anywhere in the world. One was that war will not start till the sun rises. And battle for the day will end when the sun sets and you come back to your tent and have a good night's sleep and then return back. Second is the war will not be in the agricultural fields, it will not be in the cities or populated areas. It will be in open Maidan. So Kurukshetra was an open Maidan where the war took place. And similarly, when Ravan had to confront Rama, he didn't say to Rama, you come inside my fort. He came outside the fort and fought in the open Madhan. So that was the second principle. And the third principle is that if you are defeated and you say, I'm sorry, then you return everything and say, okay, goodbye, give him a good goodbye also. And unfortunately, Prithviraj Chauhan said goodbye to him 16 times or whatever number of times, when he should have really had the sense not to do it for more than 2 times. You should not forgive somebody more than perhaps 2 times. And he forgave him for... But that was our culture. And the people who came did not realize this. I mean, they did not observe this. And they attacked at night, they attacked in the cities, they had mayhem in the population centers, they destroyed the crops. And so it was a new thing. It was only after Shivaji emerged in the scene that the new models of warfare, new methods of warfare, including guerrilla warfare, was perfected by him. So consequently, the issue is that you cannot ever, you should not ever accept failure, and that also comes out in the Gita, because it says that the result is not really your determination. You will get the value of your karma someplace. There will be a karma account which God is supposed to keep, and in that karma account, somewhere or the other, you will be able to cash it. It may be you may not get it in one area, but get in another area. You might get a very good wife and a very bad job, or the vice versa, a very bad job and a very good bad wife and a very good job. So, it's we have in Gita, the mindset is that life balances itself, and therefore that is another aspect that you. So this realizing this potential is the real question. Now, therefore, I would say your mindset should now work towards getting rid of anxiety. Anxiety comes about the fear when you start thinking about the future. And our future is unknown. And then you imagine the worst possible scenario. And that is what is anxiety leads to stress. And stress leads to disease. It generates chemicals in your body which ultimately affect your health. So stress management requires this mind stillness on this. That's why yoga is brought in. And then the future is something that we worry too much. Particularly Indians, they worry too much about the future. Not that they can do anything about it, but all the time. I keep getting asked that in the future, supposing you're killed, what will you do? You're taking all these cases against very important people. I said, how can I've got to die one day anyway. But the issue is that why should I think about such a possibility? Supposing I start early in the morning from my house for an appointment, a very important appointment, maybe something that my job or something, and on the way I get landed into a traffic jam. Now you will say, my God, this traffic jam, maybe the appointment will be cancelled and I will lose a great opportunity. So that's one way of thinking, and you fret about it, you sweat about it. And this produces great deal of bodily changes through these chemicals which are released by the brain. Now, if you were a positive person, you would say, I left early enough. Traffic jam is something I did not expect. And now what has happened? I'll just relax in the car, maybe turn on the radio and listen to the music, or put on some cassette and enjoy, you see, the stillness of the traffic jam. And maybe this appointment that I would have got would have led to a job which is not to my future. That maybe because I didn't get this, I will get another opportunity to get a better job. This happens. It has happened to me many times that I've been denied something and then I ended up doing something better. I remember when I left my professorship at Harvard, went and became professor at IIT. And I was campaigning against socialism, saying that the growth rate will never increase in our country unless we undertake a change to the market economic system. Mrs. Gandhi was in power. She was so angry when she saw, and because I got publicity, because I was ex-Harvard professor, IIT professor, so a lot of publicity damning the socialist system, the Soviet model. So one day I got a letter of dismissal saying, you are dismissed. Now I raised it to the director, how can I be dismissed when I am a full professor? And I have no inquiry, nothing, just you sent me a letter that effect, and they sent it to me 10 minutes past 5 o'clock, that effective from 5 o'clock you are dismissed. They even came and took my luggage and all from the house and all my goods and threw them out on the road. I mean, I was living in the campus housing at that time. Now, everybody thought that that's the end of me. But sooner I was, because of some of my writings, attracted political attention. I was, inducted into Parliament, and because I was inducted into Parliament, and the Janata subsequently, after the emergency came to power, I was appointed by Morarji Desai on the board of governors of the very body which dismissed me in the first place. Morarji, in order to show sympathy for me, he also dismissed all those members who dismissed me in the first place. And I was on the board of governors, I was in the IIT council, and later on, of course, I had also gone to court against my dismissal. 22 years later, I was reinstated by court. And the court gave me all my back salary without doing any work. So I landed with 25 lakhs in my pocket, and so on. Now you tell me, was the dismissal a bad thing? It was not a bad thing for me. And it also enabled me to do politics and teach at Harvard at the same time. I mean, my academic interests also, I was able to. So I feel that if you really look behind, look back, and you take a positive attitude, anything bad happens to you, maybe it's happening for something better. And with that attitude, this is what Gita says also, and that's the inference you can draw. Then you will certainly be better off. Now, I think what happens is when you start thinking too much about the future, you become risk averse. And that's the worst habit to have. You must be capable of taking risk, because you have to calculate the risk, you can't be wild and so on. But without risk taking, you cannot achieve anything. And risk, you see, is something where either you will end up in a very bad way, and of course then you must learn to get up again and try again, or you may get a huge bounty. At the end of every class at Harvard, which has students from all nationalities, particularly Indians are there in large numbers, I ask one question: now when you take up careers, what kind of career will you take up? One where you join in and you are guaranteed the job, and every year your salary will be increased by maybe 1% or 2% or whatever. There will be annual increments, and some of the money of your salary will be put in Provident Fund. And at the end of 60 years or 65 years or 70 years, you will you'll retire and you'll get a Provident Fund. That kind of a job you like. Or a job where you might become a billionaire, or you may end up on the street. What kind of a job would you like? And I posed this question to my class. The American students usually ask me, what's the probability I'll end up on the street in a risky alternative? But the Indian students will be, 99% will say the first job is better. And when I say, why the first job? Because there's guaranteed poverty. They say at least it is guaranteed. That's what's important. Even poverty is better if it is guaranteed. This is the Indian mind, which is always searching for safety, for certainty. But life is not certain. And therefore you must learn to take risk. And if you take risk with the knowledge that no effort goes waste, and if you have done it for a good cause, it will be good karma. and that will go into the account, and ultimately you will be benefited. So this, without you taking risk, you can never excel. For excellence, you need to take risk. For mediocrity, you can avoid risk. If you want to be a bureaucrat, that's a different matter. But if you want to be something, you want to achieve something, you should have the gumption to take that risk. And this is, if I may quote from Krishna in chapter 16, shloka 24, he says, this is towards the end of the Gita, therefore the scripture is your authority. If you want to know what kind of actions you should take, this is what Krishna says. The previous shloka in fact says that ignoring the ordinance of the scriptures, he who acts under the impulsion of desire will never attain happiness. Then it says, therefore the scripture is your authority in deciding what is to be done, what is not to be done. Knowing what is ordained by scriptures, you perform your duty. So this is the key thing. You need a guiding light, and that your scriptures are there. In the simplest form, it is the Gita. But then if you really develop, you can look at Upanishads. And you can get, and then you can look at the yamas and the niyamas and so on. There's no end. I mean, for character development, the Hindu thought has plenty of this. So then ultimately, what we say is that the concept of intelligence, according to the Upanishads, is not what we today think. Today, you ask any student. I went to the Indian Institute of Management one day to give a lecture, and I asked the class, which was a large class because all both the 2 years of MBA were there. I asked them, why did you join the MBA course? And I asked a few people to put up their hands who wanted to answer. 5 people put up their hands, and I asked them all 5. All 5 said only one thing. Because the IMM is the surest way to get a good job. That is why we are IMM. I said, you have no love for the theory of marketing or the theory of finance. That you are no. This is where we know that as soon as we graduate, we'll get a job. And therefore, and then also the matrimonial columns, it is said MBA, the dowry is higher than if it's not an MBA. So this kind of thinking is there, and therefore they develop what is called as cognitive intelligence. Cognitive intelligence is to be able to reason in abstract, know mathematics, physics, these are all cognitive. But the Upanishads recognizes that there are other intelligences. And I was surprised to find, without quoting the Upanishads or referring to the Upanishads, Harvard Education Department has a course on intelligence, and it is literally, in my opinion, is a carbon copy of what is there in the Upanishads. And that it says is cognitive intelligence of one dimension of intelligence. There is a second dimension of intelligence, and that second dimension, which I came last time, I spoke to the students, I told them that they should develop. That is called emotional intelligence. The capacity to know how to address people to evoke a positive response. If you say you're an idiot and therefore you won't understand, you're not going to get him as your friend. So you have to address it in such a way. Of course, you can't tell everybody in soft language because some people are very dumb, they won't understand soft language. So you have to assess that. And now there is a book called by David Coleman called Emotional Intelligence. You can go to the Google and type emotional intelligence and you'll get a series of books. Then there is something called social intelligence. Social intelligence is the intelligence to do things which doesn't harm society. So this harmonization, which is always at the root of Hindu thinking, harmonization. This harmonization of social good and your personal aspirations. And that requires again intelligence. Then another dimension of intelligence, which would be the fourth dimension, which is called moral intelligence. That you should organize your actions for your personal advancement within the moral framework. That you do not do anything unethical. You will not deprive the society of its resources. You will not engage in corruption. These have to be inculcated. If you inculcate, the more much money you have, the more your social status. It is not, this is not an Indian, it's not Sanatana Dharma to say making money is an end in itself. Because making money in an end in itself has already been denounced by Sanatana Dharma. Two great rishis, when they came together to structure the society, one was Rishi Brigu, the other was Rishi Bhagavad. They discussed among themselves how to structure society which lasts long and is stable. And Brigu then said, you see, a society can be stable only if there is a balance. And the balance can come if there are four sources of power in a society, they are separated. No one has more than one of that. So he identified knowledge, weapons, wealth and land as the sources of power. And he said that those who have knowledge, they should not have weapons, they should not have wealth, and they should not have land. And that was the Varna called Brahman. It had nothing to do with birth. Because people went into the field of knowledge, became Maharishis, even though they were born in different families. For example, Veda Vyasa, who wrote the Mahabharata, his mother was a fisherwoman. Kalidasa, who wrote the Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana, is popular believed to be a child of the Dalits, of Dalit parents. And as far as Kalidasa is concerned, he was a hunter. And Vishwamitra, who was the Rishi of Rishis, even the gods were afraid of him. He came from parents who were Kshatriyas. They were not Brahmins. But he became a Maharishi. Ravan was a Brahmin. And many people didn't know that, because for long years, this Dravida Kadagam in Tamil Nadu used to name their sons Ravanan. They used to celebrate Ravan Leela. Only recently they found out, thanks to my campaigning, that Ravan was a Brahmin. Now they have stopped talking about Ravan. they only in fact, you see, Ravan was such a great bhakta of Shiva that he went to Mansarovar. And there he did tapasya. And Shiva Bhagavan told him, I'll appear whenever you want me to appear. That he gave him. Even the nakshatras, he put them under his throne. So that kind of power he had. Samaveda he was an expert of. But he broke the law. He kidnapped somebody's wife. And he was killed by Rama, who was not a Brahmin, who was a Kshatriya. And all the Brahmins do not condemn Rama for saying you killed one of our Brahmins. They worship him because he stood for Dharma. So when I myself got the Chinese to agree to reopen Kailash and Mansarovar, the Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping told me on one condition, you will go first. And it was hellish because you had to walk up to 18,000 feet. And I've not walked on flat land for more than 1 kilometer. And for me suddenly, at least in those days, I did not walking practice. But I had to walk suddenly all the way up, and it took me 22 days to reach Mansarovar. And when I reached on the way to Mansarovar, I saw a huge lake. So I thought that was Mansarovar. And I went to, I told the Tibetan guide who was with me that, is this Mansarovar? He said, no, this is called Ravan Haranga. So I said, what does that mean? He said, Haranga means Sarovar in Tibetan. But Ravan is an Indian name, he said. So I said, good, let me have a sip of this water. So he said, no, if you touch this water, you will have very bad consequences. You may even die. So, in a mischievous mind, I took a bottle and put some water and sent it to Karunanidhi saying, please drink it and spare me. So, I am saying that here is a man who comes from a Rakshas jati. We have always, these Westerners don't know the distinction between jati and varna. Varna has nothing to do with birth. And Ravan, even though he was from a jati of Rakshas, he acquired the status of a Brahmin. And Rama recognized that, that's why after killing him, not out of regard for Ravan, but because of the institution of Brahmins, he went and did Brahma Hatya Devan Puchas. And he did it Rameshwaram. So, therefore, I am saying that this concept of intelligence, where this morality is a very important part, and that includes not this craze for money. And that's how Brigu stabilized our society. That people in the highest ranks of our society, they will be only people who specialize in knowledge. And you can, the third caste, third varna, you can make money, but then you must be philanthropic to earn social status. Countries, land, people have land, have very high status. And today, of course, real estate companies are making lots and lots of money and getting huge social status. But that was not the original concept. So, this is what the morality question is. I would say that part of the corruption in our country is that because we have such a long tradition of developed intelligence, all this intelligence now being used to making more money. And that greed has come to take control of ourselves. And as a consequence, making money by hook or crook without moral intelligence. Finally, something which everybody needs to develop, takes time, which is recognized again by the Harvard curriculum. It's called spiritual intelligence. If you go to Google again, type all this, cognitive intelligence, spiritual intelligence, moral intelligence, social intelligence, you will get books on this. And you will find that this intelligence, spiritual intelligence, recognizes, and is recognized in the Upanishads, is recognized even in the Vedas, that knowledge is actually in the cosmos. But you don't see it. After all, when you speak on your cell phone, you don't see your voice traveling. It is there, it travels. The same way knowledge is there in the cosmos. You need a neural Wi-Fi to connect to that. And that requires meditation. And that is why meditation is prescribed as a way to acquire knowledge. And this spiritual intelligence also has to. Then only you can cross boundaries. Otherwise, you will always work within boundaries. If you want to do research, you must develop spiritual intelligence. This is all in part of our Hindu religion. And this is what we need. We need to reorient ourselves. Let me tell you, before, if we don't reorient ourselves, the Americans are going to reorient themselves. They will become Hindus and we will not be Hindus. Because I find in the ashrams of Swami Dayananda Saraswati, Sri Ravi Shankar, Ramdev, Baba Ramdev's ashram is full of them. There are so many foreigners who are very rich. How do you explain them? When Puttaparthi Sai Baba, I remember once he reciting an anecdote. He said that one American woman came and said, I want peace, Swamiji, please tell me, I want peace. So he said, you want peace? Then first get rid of I, then get rid of want. What you will be left is peace. So, I mean, there are people, one of the richest of Hollywood actresses, Julia Roberts, she went to India, that too in Haryana, and she saw people with very little stress on their faces. She says, what is this? They are also poor and there is no stress. There's no feeling of anything, of anxiety. What is it? So somebody took her to a Swamiji and he explained to her about Bhagavad Gita. And she came back and she converted to Hinduism. She converted her entire family to Hinduism. I think you must have seen it in the press that this Hollywood actress. There are many others also. This Stephen Jobs, who was the mastermind of the iPhone and iPad. He also went to Varanasi and converted. There are large numbers of things that these are happening underground. Because the mindset, for stress-free mindset, it is basically our religion, which has been far ahead of everybody. Somewhere along the way, we have started losing, because we have lost the self-respect of being a Hindu. We think that the Westerners and their mores are what is suitable for making progress, and making material progress has become the ultimate in our life. That is what is the ultimate source of the downfall of society. And therefore, we have to go back to Brigu and Bhagavad. For a society, we should restructure it in such a way that we give the highest importance to those who pursue knowledge and give up everything else. I remember when I came first as a student to Harvard, my classmate asked me, how can you have accepted Mahatma Gandhi as your leader? So I asked him, in your country you will not accept a man like Mahatma Gandhi. He said, never, we will put him in jail for indecent exposure. Now, I said, in what way is your leaders? He said, no, they have to be dressed very well, you must have the best natty ties and so on, and that will be a plus factor in his leadership. Then I began thinking about it. Why is it that we Indians followed Mahatma Gandhi? It is for the very reason which was being debunked here. That he didn't want anything. He had nothing. Why do we follow these Swamijis in Bhagavad clothes? Swamiji will agree with me. It's this Bhagavad itself, its color means sacrifice. It is that tradition which makes us distinctive. It is that which I think all of us should go. I think we can become a happier people, we can prosper. India was the most developed country only 500 years ago. It's not that this religion made us all into mendicants sitting in ashrams and doing japa. No. We produced mathematics, surgery, rocket science, everything, numerology. All these things we produced because of this all-round personality of developing these five intelligences. Thank you very much. 1 crore we will fill the Marina Beach. For 50,000 we will fill Mongolai Park. You know, that kind of culture which the cinema culture has brought, I don't want to be part of that. I mean, I would rather be seen alone. There are people who prepare my papers, there are people who bring me information, and so on. Basically, the courage comes from not having the fear of the unknown. Most people lack courage because of the unknown. What will happen to me? What will happen to me? That is what Bhagavad Gita teaches. What is going to happen is going to happen because your karmas and the destiny is there. You have to do the right thing. And the more right things you do, the more karmas you earn. Good karmas you earn. And that's what Bhagavad Gita teaches. And if you are steadfast to that and focused on what you're doing, I don't think you'll have any problem. You may start alone, but you'll find a caravan soon forming behind you.